The Vatican has always been a place that holds countless secrets, many of which we still know very little about. But what if I told you there are some things you probably shouldn't hear, because once you do, they might change the way you see everything? What hidden truths are buried deep inside the Vatican? That's exactly what we're going to uncover in today's video. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. Number 33. The Divorce of King Henry VIII. In history, there are personal decisions powerful enough to change the course of all of Europe. That is the story of King Henry VIII's letter of divorce, one of the most important documents ever lost in the Vatican archives. In 1530, England was in the midst of great political and religious turmoil. After many years of marriage without a male heir with Queen Catherine of Aragon, King Henry VIII decided to ask Pope Clement VII for permission to divorce. The true motivation was not only personal feelings, but also a deep concern for the future of the Tudor dynasty. Henry VIII wanted to marry Anne Boleyn, the woman he believed would give him a son. Henry VIII sent an official letter to the Pope in Rome, explaining his situation and earnestly requesting permission to annul his marriage. For the Catholic Church at that time, marriage was considered sacred and unbreakable, and a king's divorce was not just a private affair, but carried major political consequences. After many months of waiting and negotiation, Pope Clement VII refused this request. That cold answer led to one of the biggest turning points in the history of Western Christianity. King Henry VIII decided to break all ties with the Roman Church and establish the Church of England, with himself as the supreme head. From this event, Catholicism and Protestantism were officially split, creating two opposing religious streams and fueling conflicts that would last for centuries. And what about Henry VIII's historic letter? For hundreds of years, it was lost among countless documents in the secret archives of the Vatican. It was not until the 1920s that researchers accidentally discovered this special letter. Sometimes, just one letter is enough to rewrite the history of the world. Have you ever written such a letter? Number 32. African Pope. Most of the popes of the Vatican have been European clergymen, white men from major cities like Rome or Paris. However, the history of the Catholic Church hides a lesser-known truth. There have been at least 3 popes of African descent, each leaving a profound mark during key moments in the early days of Christianity. The first was Saint Victor I, the 14th Pope of the Church, who reigned from 189 to 199. He made an important decision regarding the celebration of Easter, setting the rule that the holiday should be observed on a Sunday instead of varying dates as before. This was a turning point that helped unify Christian traditions around the world. Next was Saint Miltiades, who held the papacy from 311 to 314. He led the church at a very sensitive time, when Christians had just gained the freedom to worship after centuries of persecution. Under Miltiades, the church began conducting Mass in Latin instead of Greek, making religious teachings more accessible to the Roman people and laying the foundation for the growth of Western Catholicism. And finally, there was Saint Gelasius I, who became Pope in 492. He was known for his reforms in church rituals, urging the church to dedicate much of its wealth to charity, care for the poor, and support acts of kindness. He also strongly opposed lingering pagan practices in Roman society, helping to cleanse the church and strengthen the faith of its followers. What's interesting is that all 3 of these popes came from North Africa, a region that was once a center of culture and learning in the Roman Empire. At that time, skin color was not a barrier for those with talent and dedication to serve the church. It was this diversity that gave Christianity its strength and ability to spread in its earliest days. The stories of these African popes not only help us look back at history with a broader perspective, but also remind us that faith, wisdom, and compassion are not limited by skin color or background. Number 31. The heresy trial of the Knights Templar. Perhaps no military order in European history is surrounded by as many legends and tragedies as the Knights Templar. Founded in the early 12th century, the Knights Templar were once protectors of pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land, but within just a century, they had become one of the most powerful financial and military forces in Europe. However, That power and wealth would eventually lead to their brutal downfall. At the beginning of the 14th century, fearing the growing strength of the Templars, King Philip IV of France decided to eliminate them. Citing accusations of heresy, he ordered the mass arrest of members, confiscated their assets, and set up a series of trials filled with heavy and mostly fabricated charges. Under the crushing pressure of torture and threats, many knights were forced to confess to crimes they had never committed. In 1312, facing direct pressure from King Philip IV, Pope Clement V had no choice but to declare the dissolution of the Knights Templar. The leaders of the order were sentenced to death, many of them burned alive in public, while their names and honor were dragged through the mud for centuries to come. But history is always full of surprises. Nearly 700 years later, the Vatican revealed a shocking document known as the Pergamenum Chinon, discovered in its secret archives. This record showed that Pope Clement V had actually absolved the Knights Templar of heresy during a closed session. In other words, they were not considered heretics. However, the enormous pressure from the French king forced the Pope to condemn them anyway. Today, the story of the Knights Templar is not only the tragedy of a religious military order, but also a symbol of the fierce clash between power and politics. The mystery of the Templars remains, and questions of justice, honor, and truth may continue to haunt human history for centuries to come. Number 30. The Vatican's Exorcist Army. There's a secret that most people don't know. The Vatican has quietly been building an army of exorcist priests, and they've been doing it for many years. The Vatican has established an academy dedicated to training priests to confront evil and expel what they believe to be demons from human beings. Every year, hundreds of priests from more than 50 countries travel to Rome to attend a special course called Exorcism and the Prayer of Liberation. This week-long course has been held regularly since 2005. The goal is to recruit and train more and more people capable of handling possessions, a phenomenon the Vatican believes is growing rapidly around the world. In Italy today, as many as 500,000 people each year seek out exorcisms, hoping to be freed from what they believe are supernatural forces tormenting them. Why has the number of exorcisms exploded like this? Some say it's the result of declining faith in modern society. Others believe that social media has helped spread fear and superstition. Some experts even suggest that as traditional beliefs waver, people are more likely to turn to mystical solutions to fill the emptiness inside. Faced with this rising wave of possessions, the Vatican could not sit idly by. They decided to expand their training programs, constantly recruiting more young priests into the ranks of their exorcist army, ready to respond to any case. In the course, priests don't just study theology and scripture, they also receive training in psychology, practice exorcism rituals, and listen firsthand to real-life stories from experienced colleagues. Whether you believe it or not, the number of exorcist priests is growing, and they stand ready to take up the fight between humanity and the darkness. But are these ancient rituals still truly necessary in the modern world? Or are they simply part of a tradition that never fades away? Number 29. The donation of Constantine. In the long history of Christianity, few documents have sparked as much controversy as the donation of Constantine. This was a text that appeared in the Middle Ages and was once considered ironclad proof of the Catholic Church's supreme authority. But the truth behind it is a story of calculation and deception that stretched over centuries. According to legend, this donation was written in the 4th century, when Emperor Constantine the Great was suffering from a terrible case of leprosy. In his desperation, he turned to Pope Sylvester I for help. Then, something miraculous happened. The Pope cured Constantine. Out of gratitude, the emperor didn't just hand over his power, he gave the entire western territory of the Roman Empire to the Church. For many centuries, the donation of Constantine was used as a kind of talisman for the Pope to strengthen his authority over kings and lords across Europe. Especially in the 8th century, this document became the tool that convinced Pepin the Short and his son to hand over their conquered lands to the Pope. It was a masterful game of power, where religion and politics were intertwined like two sides of the same coin. But eventually, the truth came out. In the 15th century, the Italian scholar Lorenzo Valla used his knowledge of linguistics and textual analysis to prove that the donation of Constantine was, in fact, a forgery created in the 8th century. The language, terminology, and even the historical details in the document simply could not have existed during Constantine's time. Valla exposed one of the greatest hoaxes in history, forcing all of Europe to reconsider the power of the Church and the true value of documents once considered untouchable. Number 28. Was Moses actually Prince Thutmose? In the epic stories of the Bible, Moses is always mentioned as the legendary leader who guided the Israelites across the Red Sea, escaping slavery in Egypt after a series of terrifying plagues struck the Pharaoh's kingdom. Yet behind that legend lies a theory that has sparked debate for decades. Moses may actually have been Prince Thutmose, the son of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, who was once considered the hope to inherit Egypt's throne. The name Thutmose in ancient Egyptian carries a very special meaning. Thut refers to divinity, while Mos means son or prince. This similarity has led many scholars to question whether Moses of the Bible could actually be the Thutmose of Egyptian records. If this were true, then the story of a prince cast aside from the throne, forced to leave his homeland with his loyal followers, would become more accurate than ever before. Researchers believe that after being pushed out of the royal succession, Thutmose led a group of believers beyond Egypt's borders, across the sea, to the land that is now Israel. They think it was these very people, under the leadership of Moses, or perhaps Thutmose, who laid the first foundations for Judaism. What's more, traces of old Jewish rituals and symbols still show influences from ancient Egyptian religious practices, pointing to a deep cultural and spiritual exchange that few have ever noticed. While there is still no definitive proof to confirm this theory, it opens up a completely new perspective on the connections between the great civilizations of history. Perhaps the story of Moses parting the sea is not just a miracle, but also the mark of an exile, a prince without a country, determined not to surrender to fate, and destined to write a new chapter for all of humanity. Number 27. The Apocalypse of Gabriel. There are discoveries that leave the entire religious world in silence, and the Apocalypse of Gabriel is one of them. Experts have called it one of the most important religious artifacts since the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. This stone tablet has raised a wave of unanswered questions about the origins of faith and the history of humanity. The Apocalypse of Gabriel stone is believed to have appeared around the 1st century BCE, or the early years of the Common Era. That means it has existed for over 2,000 years, buried beneath the dust of time. On the surface of the stone are hand-carved lines filled with mysterious prophecies. Among them is one especially prominent and controversial prophecy. The Messiah, son of Joseph, will rise after 3 days. Just that single, brief sentence has left scholars puzzled, because it mirrors the story of the death and resurrection of Jesus, but was carved before Jesus was even born. This detail has shaken both Jewish and Christian scholars. If the dating of the stone is accurate, it forces theologians to reconsider centuries of established doctrine. Is this an extraordinary sign? A strange coincidence? Or could it be evidence that the story of the Messiah existed among the people long before the time of Jesus? Even today, the true identity of the person who wrote those lines remains a mystery. Some scholars believe the Apocalypse of Gabriel refers to the Archangel Gabriel, who often appears in traditional Jewish and Christian stories to announce great events. Yet, no one truly knows who the real author was, or what the ultimate purpose of these prophecies might have been. Number 26. The Rainbow Body of Jesus. In the Bible, there is a strange event where Jesus appears before his 3 closest disciples, surrounded by a mystical light that seems almost otherworldly. From that image, many theories have emerged. Some scholars believe that Jesus was shining because he had reached a special state known as the rainbow body, a concept from Tibetan Buddhism describing a person who has achieved ultimate enlightenment. At that point, the physical body can transform into pure light upon death. In Eastern legends, those who attain the rainbow body can merge with the universe, leaving the material world behind without any trace except their clothes. Some bold theories even claim that Jesus once studied, or was at least deeply influenced by Buddhism and other Eastern spiritual traditions. Supporters point to similarities in teachings about compassion, letting go of material things, and the way both Jesus and the Buddhas emphasize the path to inner liberation. Because of this, some believe that for centuries, The Catholic Church has deliberately concealed or ignored the possibility that Jesus ever encountered Eastern philosophy. For many, the rainbow body of Jesus is not just a religious symbol, but a mysterious bridge linking Eastern and Western civilization. It is a reminder that great things are often born from the blending of cultures, and that every new mystery is a chance to reconsider values we once thought were too familiar. Number 25. The Magic Book of Pope Honorius III. Few would expect that among the mysteries of the Vatican, there exists a book that once shocked the entire Catholic world, a magic book said to have been written by Pope Honorius III himself. In history, Honorius III led the Catholic Church from 1216 to 1227. He was famous as an exemplary pope devoted to his faith, yet his name became linked to one of the most infamous grimoires, or manuals of magical practice, leaving many people both astonished and suspicious. This book is called the Grimoire of Pope Honorius. What makes it unique is not just its content, full of rituals, spells, and instructions for summoning both angels and demons, but also the identity of its supposed author. For centuries, rumors spread that Pope Honorius III wrote it as a secret handbook, reserved for priests willing to venture into the mystical realm. However, the truth is not that simple. The first edition of the book did not appear until 1629, more than 400 years after Honorius III had died. Many researchers believe it is nothing more than a forgery, created to exploit the faith of priests and believers. At that time, European society was still deeply superstitious and obsessed with magic. Labeling a spellbook with the Pope's name would make it appear more legitimate and powerful in the eyes of many. Despite the controversy surrounding its origins, the Grimoire of Pope Honorius continues to stir up suspicion and fear. Some believe it truly is a secret legacy that the Vatican wants to keep hidden. Others claim it's nothing more than a clever scam aimed at exploiting medieval superstition. But one thing is certain, this book created a tangled link between the Church and the very magical practices that the Church itself once strongly condemned. Number 24. The Vatican's Secret Court. The Apostolic Penitentiary at the Vatican is an institution that few people have ever heard of. This is the secret court of the Catholic Church, a place where only the most serious sins are judged, and only the Pope himself has the authority to grant absolution. Founded more than 800 years ago, the Apostolic Penitentiary has existed almost entirely separate from the rest of the world. Its work is to handle crimes the Church considers unforgivable, such as desecrating the Eucharist, revealing the secrets of confession, or serious sexual offenses by clergy that are beyond the reach of ordinary church courts. For centuries, the work of the Apostolic Penitentiary was kept completely secret, with all records safely locked away in the Vatican archives. Only in recent years has a small part of this information begun to be revealed to the public. It's now known that this court hears only a small number of cases each year, but each one contains heartbreaking and complex stories. It could be said that the Apostolic Penitentiary is one of the oldest courts in the Vatican, a place where the greatest sins are hidden away, waiting for the day they might be brought into the light. How much longer will its secrets remain locked away? Or will everything one day be revealed to the world? Number 23. The escape routes of the Nazis. After World War II ended, Europe was thrown into chaos, with countless Nazi war criminals facing prosecution. Yet as many as 90% of former Nazis managed to escape from Europe, and most of them did so by passing through Italy, thanks to a secret network known as the Rat Line. What is truly shocking is that this escape operation was not only aided by secret groups, but also involved certain powerful Catholic clergy. The most prominent among them was Bishop Alois Hudal, a highly controversial figure. Not only did Bishop Hudal openly express sympathy for the Nazis, but he also used his authority and position in the Church to help thousands of former Nazis evade justice. With his extensive connections in Rome, Hudal provided forged documents and created new identities for notorious war criminals. After leaving Germany, many of these men found refuge in monasteries across Italy, where they were sheltered until they could safely cross the Atlantic. The Ratlines network didn't stop there. It also took advantage of support from the International Red Cross, using refugee travel documents to help war criminals leave Europe without being detected. Even today, Ratlines remains one of the darkest chapters of the post-war era. It raises serious questions about responsibility, morality, and a silence that lasted for decades. Number 22, the Bible Code. The Bible has always inspired countless people to believe in miracles and mysteries, but in the late 20th century, a book sparked a new wave of controversy, The Bible Code, by author Michael Drosnin. In this book, Drosnin claimed to have found prophetic codes hidden deep within the pages of the Bible, codes he believed could predict the future of humanity. His method relied on something called the equidistant letter sequence, or ELS for short. The theory is fairly simple. You pick a letter in the text, then skip a specific number of characters to form a new word or phrase. Using this technique, Drosnin claimed to have discovered a series of predictions about major world events, such as the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the 9/11 terrorist attacks, World War II, and even the creation of the atomic bomb. Many readers were unsettled by these seemingly accurate predictions, and the idea of a Bible code quickly spread across the world. Does the Bible really conceal a supernatural message about the future? However, the scientific and mathematical communities do not believe this. Many researchers have shown that the ELS method can be applied to any long text, not just the Bible. People have run the same experiment on Moby Dick, and even modern novels, discovering countless predictions, from the death of Martin Luther King to natural disasters. This proves that these messages are simply coincidences created by rearranging letters. Even so, the Bible Code remains one of the most fascinating mysteries of modern times. Does the Bible truly hold God's secret code, or is it all just a game humans play with words? Perhaps everyone will have to find their own answer. Number 21, the Christ myth. There is a bold theory that raises a question which has left many people puzzled. Is it possible that Jesus never existed at all? According to this theory, Jesus Christ was not a historical figure, but simply a product of imagination, like the legends written down through the centuries. One of the most prominent supporters of this idea is Earl Doherty, a Canadian author and historian. Doherty not only doubts the existence of Jesus, but also claims that Jesus played almost no role in the actual birth of Christianity. In his view, the stories of Jesus' life and sacrifice are really just familiar mythological patterns, ones that have appeared in many ancient cultures. This has sparked one of the greatest debates among scholars. Are the Gospels in the Bible historical records, or are they symbolic works of literature? Some scholars believe the Gospels are like ancient biographies, describing the life of a real person with events that can be verified. However, more and more voices are challenging this idea. They point out that details from Jesus' life, from his miraculous birth, to a virgin mother, to his supernatural miracles, to his painful death on the cross and his resurrection, are all motifs commonly found in the myths of many civilizations, such as Egypt or Greece. If Jesus was a real historical figure, why are there no non-Christian records clearly documenting his life from the same era? Most of what we know comes from later writers who lived hundreds of years after the actual events. This only adds to the doubts about the authenticity of what is recorded in the Bible. Some even believe that deep within the secret vaults of the Vatican, there are still documents that have never been made public, ones that could overturn the entire story of Jesus Christ. Rumor has it that the Vatican possesses evidence showing Jesus was simply a character invented by humans, created to bring hope, order, or power to a community during a time of chaos. However, up to now, no such document has ever come to light. And this very mystery only makes the story of Jesus all the more endless as a subject for debate. So, what do you think? Feel free to share your opinion in the comments below. Number 20, the Sethians. When it comes to the mysterious sects in the history of Western religion, few people know of the Sethians, a unique branch of the Gnostic movement that existed even before the early days of Christianity. The Sethians believed that Seth, the third son of Adam and Eve, was not just a figure in the Bible, but the embodiment of the divine itself, carrying with him a secret trove of knowledge meant to unlock the greatest mysteries of the universe and of humanity. What set the Sethians apart was their doctrine. Adherents of this sect blended the profound viewpoints of ancient Greek philosophy, especially the ideas of Plato and Parmenides, into their faith. To them, the universe was created by an invisible God, a transcendent being, wholly good and existing far beyond the limits of ordinary human comprehension. Yet, alongside this God, there emerged a malevolent deity named Yaldabaoth, who created the material world for the sole purpose of imprisoning human souls within flesh, preventing them from ever attaining true freedom. According to Sethian belief, the only path to liberate the soul was to overcome the bonds of the material world. They saw the act of eating the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden not as a sin, but as the very first step in humanity's defiance against the oppressive power of the evil deity, a courageous pursuit of truth that lies beyond the rigid rules imposed by this world. However, as Christianity flourished and gradually became the dominant faith across Europe, Gnostic groups like the Sethians were branded as heretics. They were harshly persecuted, their teachings destroyed, and they slowly faded from the course of history. Yet, the story of the Sethians serves as a reminder that from the earliest dawn of human civilization, there have always been those who dared to question the nature of God, the meaning of life, and the pursuit of spiritual freedom. Number 19. Women as priests. There is a mystery that has left many people wondering, have women ever served as priests? The answer to this question could fundamentally change the way we think about the role of women in the early church. The Priscilla catacombs, built in the 2nd century AD and stretching for miles beneath the city of Rome, hold part of that secret. Inside these cold stone corridors, vibrant frescoes line the walls. Among them, the most striking is the one known as the Cubiculum of the Veiled Woman. It depicts a woman draped in a cloak, arms outstretched in a ritual gesture. Even more remarkable, her clothing closely resembles the vestments worn by priests during the celebration of Mass. But the evidence does not end there. In the Greek chapel, another chamber within the same catacomb complex, there is a painting that shows a group of women seated around a table, engaged in a religious rite. This image has sparked intense debate among archaeologists and historians. Did women in the early days of Christianity truly serve as spiritual leaders and officiate sacred ceremonies, just as men did? Some researchers and scholars of religious history believe that these images are compelling evidence that female priests once existed within the first Christian communities. These frescoes are not simply works of art. They reflect a form of religious life that was far more diverse and inclusive than we might expect. However, this interpretation faces fierce opposition from the Vatican. Church representatives insist that these images are purely symbolic or products of the artist's imagination, and do not serve as historical proof of women serving as priests. The Vatican maintains that the tradition of the Church was built on the example set by Jesus, emphasizing that there has never been an official female priest in the history of Christianity. Was the religious history of the early Church more open and varied than we have been led to believe? Or are these traces merely illusions of the past? And could there be other stories about women in positions of spiritual leadership that still remain hidden in the shadows? Number 18. The Letter of Mary, Queen of Scots. Among the secret documents kept deep within the Vatican archives, there is a letter that carries an entire tragic chapter of European history. It is a letter written in French by Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, addressed to the Pope on the 23rd of November, 1586. As she penned those final lines, Mary was not only pleading for her own salvation, but she was also recording the pain and harsh fate of a dethroned queen. The letter was written at Fotheringhay Castle, where Mary was held captive after nearly 20 years in exile. Her life had been a relentless struggle, from ascending the throne at a very young age to being overthrown, forced to flee her homeland, and finally imprisoned by her own cousin, Queen Elizabeth I of England, who feared Mary as a threat to her crown. In the letter, Mary earnestly begged the Pope for forgiveness for her mistakes and pleaded for the final protection of the supreme leader of the Catholic Church. She recounted the years she spent in chains, the betrayals, and the loneliness endured by someone who had once been a queen. Mary sought not only forgiveness for herself, but also warned the Pope of the intrigues and dangers posed by certain cardinals in the court. She claimed that the trial condemning her was illegal and unjust, and implored the Pope to speak out in her defense. Yet all of Mary's efforts were in vain. The Pope never replied. Her last hope faded when she was sentenced to death for allegedly plotting to assassinate the Queen of England. Today, that letter remains carefully preserved in the Vatican archives, a testament to a turbulent era in history and a symbol of both the resilience and the despair of a queen facing the final moments of her life. Number 17. the Michelangelo extortion case. The Vatican is sometimes home not only to stories of faith, but also to cases that entwine the world's greatest names in art history. In 2015, the Vatican was suddenly confronted with an extortion letter demanding the ransom of two invaluable documents directly connected to the Renaissance genius Michelangelo. The anonymous culprits demanded a sum of 100,000 euros. What shocked everyone was the fact that these two documents had actually been stolen in 1997, yet for nearly 2 decades, the theft had been kept entirely secret. Only upon receiving the extortion letter did the Vatican officially acknowledge the incident to the public. So, what were these documents? One was a handwritten letter by Michelangelo himself. Such surviving letters from him are exceedingly rare and are considered priceless treasures. The second document, though it contains only Michelangelo's signature, is still enough to make art collectors and historians around the world covet it. Faced with the demand to buy back these relics, the Vatican firmly refused to negotiate with the extortionists. They declared they would never yield to any form of criminal pressure, regardless of the value of the documents involved. Yet, what is most striking is that for almost 20 years after the theft, the Vatican kept everything hidden from public scrutiny. To this day, the two precious documents bearing Michelangelo's name have never been recovered, and the identities of those behind the extortion remain an unsolved mystery. If you know where those documents are, you might want to contact the Vatican for a reward. Number 16. The conspiracy behind the crucifixion of Jesus. For 2 millennia, the story of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection has been the cornerstone of Christian faith. Yet, there have long been rumors of a secret hidden deep within the Vatican archives that could shake the very foundations of Western religious history. According to a highly controversial theory, the crucifixion of Jesus was, in reality, a meticulously orchestrated conspiracy. It is believed that there exists a secret document concealed within the Vatican that records the truth. Jesus did not actually die on the cross. Instead, he was saved through a clandestine arrangement with the Roman governor Pontius Pilate, the very man responsible for ordering the execution. The story goes that, as Jesus hung on the cross, he was offered a sponge soaked in vinegar to drink. But according to this conspiracy theory, the sponge was actually laced with a powerful sedative, sending him into a deep, death-like coma. Jesus was then taken down from the cross in a state of clinical death and secretly revived by his disciples. In this version, the miracle of resurrection 3 days later was nothing more than his awakening from a profound state of unconsciousness. If this theory were true, it would become the greatest secret ever kept by Christianity. The idea that Jesus did not die on the cross would not only transform the very foundation of doctrine, but would also raise countless new questions about the true roles of historical figures and the real purpose behind the entire biblical narrative. To this day, all of this remains only rumor and speculation. There is no verified document telling this story, and the crucifixion conspiracy endures as a subject of debate, one that continues to spark the curiosity and imagination of many. Number 15. The Trial of Galileo. There have been moments in human history when a single new idea could cost its creator everything. Such is the story of Galileo Galilei, the renowned Italian astronomer and philosopher. On the 12th of April, 1633, Galileo was brought before the Inquisition in Rome. He was accused of publicly defending heliocentrism, the theory that the Earth is not the center of the universe, but instead revolves around the sun. At a time when the Catholic Church insisted that the Earth stood still, this was a dangerous idea, one that threatened to undermine the faith and authority of all of Europe. Before a panel of stern judges, Galileo was forced to defend the theory he had dedicated his life to studying, yet the pressure from the Church was overwhelming. He was found guilty of heresy and paid for it with his freedom. Instead of being sentenced to death, Galileo was condemned to house arrest for the rest of his life, spending his final years in solitude. Few people know that the official records of this historic trial were kept secret for centuries in the Vatican archives. These documents are not merely legal records. They are evidence of an era in which science and religion stood on opposite sides of a great divide. It was not until 1992, nearly 360 years later, that the Vatican formally acknowledged its mistake in condemning Galileo. That belated decision served as an apology to a great scientist, a man who devoted his life to the pursuit of truth, even at the cost of his own freedom. Number 14. The Vatican Silver Hammer. When it comes to the most secretive and enigmatic rituals in the history of the Catholic Church, few things are as intriguing as the story of the Vatican Silver Hammer. While much of the world believes that the confirmation of a person's death requires nothing more than a doctor's presence, the passing of a pope is considered such a momentous event that it comes with its own unique and rather eerie set of rituals. According to ancient tradition, when a pope dies, the person who holds the title of Camerlengo is charged with confirming the pope's passing. To ensure that the pope is truly no longer alive, the Camerlengo uses a small silver hammer to gently tap the pope's forehead 3 times. If there is no response, the pope's death is officially confirmed. After this solemn act, the fisherman's ring is also destroyed, smashed with that same silver hammer, as a way of closing the chapter on the old papacy and preparing for a new era in the church. There has been much debate about whether the ritual of tapping the silver hammer on the Pope's forehead is still practiced today, as the Vatican continues to keep these procedures behind tightly closed doors. Many sources suggest that, nowadays, only the reading of the Pope's name and the destruction of the ring remain, while the silver hammer is preserved as a symbol of tradition. If you have any information about the whereabouts of the Vatican's silver hammer, feel free to share it in the comments below this video. Number 13. The Bejeweled Skeletons of the Church. In 1978, in a quiet suburb of Rome, a group of workers digging the soil to plant grapevines accidentally uncovered an ancient underground passage. As they followed the dark corridor, a scene both chilling and overwhelming unfolded before their eyes. They found row upon row of human bones stacked high, with no end in sight. By some estimates, the number of skeletons there reached as many as 750,000. These remains once belonged to early Christian believers, people who had died during persecutions, plagues, or poverty. After being discovered, their fate once again took a turn that no one could have foreseen. During the 16th and 17th centuries, as the Reformation swept across Europe, the Catholic Church was plunged into a profound crisis. Many people left the Church, challenging the authority of the Vatican. In response, the Church decided to use these anonymous remains to rekindle faith and awe among the faithful. Monks began excavating skeletons from the Roman catacombs and quickly declared them to be the relics of ancient martyrs. Once selected, each skeleton was carefully cleaned, reassembled, and then lavishly adorned with gold, silver, gemstones, and precious silks. Many skeletons were even fitted with crowns, and some held scepters or staffs. When these bejeweled skeletons were put on display in churches, crowds flocked to see them, considering their presence a miracle. For many, the chance to behold a glittering holy relic with their own eyes was tangible proof of the closeness between humanity and heaven. But not everyone was convinced, especially the Protestant groups, who saw the whole practice as little more than a display of wealth by a church desperate to maintain its power. From this, a holy relic collecting movement spread across Europe. Noble families, merchant guilds, and even small towns all sought to acquire a skeleton certified by the Vatican as a saint. It was not unusual to see such relics proudly displayed in churches. There were even entire groups of monks dedicated to transporting these skeletons along the roads from Rome to Germany. Every place the holy bodies appeared became the site of a major event, boosting the prestige of the Vatican. With the rise of the Enlightenment, people began to question the authenticity of these relics. Some countries, such as Austria under Emperor Joseph II, ordered that undocumented remains be destroyed or reburied. Even so, to this day, many churches in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland still preserve these bejeweled skeletons as part of their history. Have you ever seen one of these skeletons yourself? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Number 12. The 30 Pieces of Silver of Judas. When it comes to betrayal, few images are as haunting as the moment Judas Iscariot accepted 30 pieces of silver to betray Jesus. For generations, people have wondered just how much were those 30 coins worth, and what ultimately became of them. What seems at first to be a minor detail in the Bible only reveals more layers of mystery the deeper you look, layers that stretch all the way to the present day. In ancient times, 30 pieces of silver was not a great fortune. Scholars believe they were likely 30 shekels of Tyre, a type of silver coin commonly used throughout the Middle East. Each shekel weighed about 14 grams of nearly pure silver. If converted to today's value, the sum Judas received would barely surpass $300. It is almost unfathomable that, for so little, he left an indelible stain on the history of faith. After Jesus was arrested, Judas quickly realized the enormity of his mistake. He tried to return the silver to the priests, but was refused. The coins were later used to buy a piece of land known as the Field of Blood, a burial ground for strangers without kin. As time passed, the fate of the 30 pieces of silver became the subject of countless legends. During the Middle Ages, coins said to be from Judas began to surface in holy relic collections across Europe. Many believed these were the original coins, passed through the hands of kings, and perhaps even still hidden somewhere in the Vatican's vast treasury. According to some legends, anyone who possesses a coin from Judas will be plagued by bad luck or cursed by the very mark of betrayal. So, would you want to own such a coin? Number 11. The Jewish treasure in the Vatican's basement. There are treasures that not only enrich their possessors, but are entwined with the fate of civilizations spanning thousands of years. Among these, the legendary menorah is perhaps the most famous religious artifact ever stolen, and to this day, many believe it lies hidden somewhere in the secret vaults beneath the Vatican. The story begins in the year 70 AD, when Jerusalem burned under the boots of Roman legions led by General Titus. After storming the most sacred temple of the Jewish people, Roman soldiers seized everything of value, including the solid gold menorah, the most sacred symbol of Judaism. Even now, the image of Roman soldiers carrying the menorah is carved in striking detail on the Arch of Titus in Rome. After their victory, the Romans paraded the menorah through crowded streets before storing it in their imperial archives. From that moment onward, the fate of the menorah became a great mystery. Some theories suggest it was hidden deep underground when Rome was invaded by northern tribes. Others believe it was buried alongside the Visigoth king Alaric during his retreat from the city. Still, others claim it was taken to Carthage, then captured by the Byzantines, and ultimately vanished amid the chaos of history. Yet, it is possible that the menorah never left Rome. Many scholars and archaeology enthusiasts believe it is kept somewhere in the Vatican's secret chambers. Some even insist they have glimpsed the menorah or other treasures of the temple inside the church's closely guarded storerooms. Yet the Vatican has never confirmed or denied these rumors. What truly happened to the menorah remains a question no one can answer with certainty. Is the Vatican holding one of the most sacred relics of the Jewish people, or is it merely a legend passed down through the generations? Number 10. The Street Olin Blood of Jesus. The story of the theft of the Holy Blood in France is a vivid example of a historical tale that is both humorous and tense, but also full of surprises. The incident took place in a small town in northern France. A group of thieves broke into an old church at night, intending to steal gold, silver, or other valuable antiques. When they saw an elaborately decorated golden box displayed prominently on the altar, they immediately thought they had hit the jackpot. The thieves took the box, convinced it was real treasure. It was only when they got home that they realized inside the box was not gold, silver, or jewels, but a small vial said to contain the blood of Jesus. This discovery left the thieves terrified. They were not only worried about the law, but also shaken by the idea of holding something many believe is sacred. Not knowing what to do with the item, the thieves contacted Arthur Brand, a famous art theft investigator in Europe. They had only one request: take the box back as soon as possible and ask no further questions. In the end, the precious relic was returned to its sacred place. The case closed with relief for both those who returned it and those who received it. But it also left everyone thinking. Sometimes, the greatest treasure isn't about material value, but about faith and about things that go far beyond what people can ever measure. Number 9. The Secret Books of Moses. Among ancient religious mysteries, few things have sparked as much curiosity and debate as the 6th and 7th books of Moses. These texts are said to have been banned or even hidden away by the Vatican because of the powers they are believed to contain, powers that go far beyond anything found in any official Holy Scripture. Legend has it that, after writing the first 5 books that laid the foundation for Judaism and Christianity, Moses left behind 2 secret books, passing them down to chosen successors as a handbook for controlling supernatural forces. For thousands of years, however, no one openly mentioned them in official records. It wasn't until the 18th century in Europe that the first printed copies of the 6th and 7th books of Moses began to appear, and they quickly spread among occultists, witches, and minority communities who still believed in ancient magic. What sets these two books apart from all other scriptures is their strange and unsettling content. It is said that each page holds a world of spells for calling rain, commanding storms, healing incurable diseases, summoning angels, or even speaking with the dead. The pages are filled with ancient symbols and mysterious diagrams that people once believed could be used to summon invisible forces. Because of this, the two books have never been recognized by the Church. In fact, they have been officially banned. Some modern scholars argue that these books were simply the creation of German printers during the boom of occultism. They exploited the name of Moses to sell their books to the superstitious. But there are other opinions, too. Some say this is not the first time important texts have been banned or hidden away. Perhaps the 6th and 7th books of Moses are actually a compilation of secret magical practices passed down orally over thousands of years, packaged under Moses' name to give them a sacred aura and to avoid destruction. Some researchers even suggest that the Vatican holds the original versions of these books in its secret archives, because the spells within are powerful enough to break the very framework of faith. Whatever their true origin, the 6th and 7th books of Moses have left a deep mark on popular culture. Number 8. The French Freemason Case and the Catholic Church. You might be surprised to learn that the Roman Catholic Church still maintains an extremely strict stance toward Freemasonry, a mysterious organization present in many countries around the world. The relationship between the Church and the Freemasons has never been smooth. To the Vatican, Freemasonry has always been seen as an outsider force, often viewed as opposing traditional Christian values. The most recent story that stirred up all of France happened in 2013, in a small village in the Alps. The central figure was Father Pascal Vessin, a dedicated priest who had served his local Catholic community for nearly a decade. But in a short time, he suddenly became the center of a major controversy, simply because he was a member of a Freemason lodge in France. The Vatican did not just issue a warning or a reminder. They decided that Father Vessin would be stripped of all his positions in the church. Immediately, he had to stop all pastoral work and leave the parish he had treated his family for so many years. This decision shocked parishioners and triggered fierce debate in the French press and society. Why was the church so harsh? Is Freemasonry really so dangerous? And are there secrets between the Vatican and mysterious organizations like the Freemasons that the public has never known about? Father Vessin's case is not the first of its kind. For centuries, the Catholic Church has repeatedly spoken out against Freemasonry, even issuing multiple excommunication decrees against anyone who joins. According to the official stance of the Vatican, the values, secret rituals, and intricate network inside Freemasonry are not compatible with the Christian faith. But what's notable is that Freemasonry itself denies all accusations of being a cult or of any underground activity. They claim to be simply a group of people dedicated to charity, encouraging free thought, and not opposing the church at all. Still, the secret rituals, the whispered stories about the organization's influence, and their connections with many prominent historical figures have built a shroud of mystery around them. In the end, the case of Father Vessin is just a small glimpse into the complex relationship between two of the world's most influential forces. It raises a question that, even now, has no answer. What secrets still remain between the Vatican and mysterious organizations like the Freemasons? Number 7. The canonization of Joan of Arc, tragedy, and the Church's transformation. The story of Joan of Arc is one of history's greatest tragedies, and it stands as a clear example of the complex changes within the Catholic Church over time. In 15th century France, Joan of Arc rose up to lead the French army, helping to free her country from English occupation. Her victories became an endless source of inspiration, not only for people in France, but for millions around the world. But Joan's glory did not last long. In 1431, she was captured and brought to trial by a court established by the Catholic Church itself. She was charged with heresy and witchcraft simply because she claimed to hear the voices of saints and dared to wear armor like a man. Throughout the trial, Joan faced harsh accusations, and even betrayal from those she had once fought to protect. After a year of imprisonment and relentless interrogation, Joan was finally forced to sign a confession of guilt. But only a short time later, she reaffirmed her innocence. The church, of course, did not forgive her. They ordered Joan to be burned alive in Rouen main square. As a heartbroken crowd looked on, the image of the brave young woman standing in the flames, clutching a cross, became a symbol of sacrifice and unshakable faith. But history did not end there. 20 years after Joan's death, the Catholic Church held a retrial and officially cleared her name. It was not until 1920, almost 500 years after she was burned at the stake, that the Vatican officially declared her a saint, Saint Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc's story is not just a personal tragedy. It also reflects the internal conflicts and transformations of the Church over the centuries. Someone once condemned as a heretic was ultimately honored as a symbol of courage and loyalty. The canonization of Joan of Arc leaves many to wonder. How many other lives have been wrongly judged by history, only to have justice restored centuries later? Number 6. The Jar of Manna, the mystery of divine food. There are stories in the Bible that go beyond miracles. They become mysteries that have fascinated humanity for thousands of years. The tale of the Jar of Manna is a perfect example. According to the Bible, when the Israelites wandered for 40 years in the desert after leaving Egypt, they faced countless hardships: burning heat, hunger, thirst, and despair. In those desperate times, God performed an unprecedented miracle. He sent manna down from heaven, a mysterious food that was enough to sustain the entire nation day by day. Ancient texts describe manna as small, white flakes with a mild sweetness, which could be used to make bread, and every morning it appeared on the ground like a layer of dew. But what made manna truly special was not just the miracle that kept a nation alive. Moses instructed his brother Aaron to take a portion of the manna, place it in a golden jar, and put it inside the Ark of the Covenant. This was meant to remind future generations of God's wonders and faithfulness. Yet, over the course of history, the jar of manna vanished without a trace. No one knows exactly where it went or how it was lost. Some believe that when the temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, the priests managed to hide the jar of manna along with the Ark of the Covenant underground. Others claim this treasure was secretly taken to Ethiopia, where an ancient church still insists it guards the Ark. And of course, there are theories that the Vatican holds the jar of manna, along with other sacred relics, deep within its secret archives. Even today, despite many attempts to find it, the jar of manna remains an unsolved mystery. It is not just evidence of a biblical miracle, but also a symbol of faith, patience, and the longing to connect with wonders beyond human understanding. Will this secret ever be revealed? Or will it forever remain part of humanity's sacred mysteries? Number 5, the Holy Grail. There are symbols in history that are both familiar and wrapped in layers of mystery, and the Holy Grail is one of them. You might have heard of the Grail through stories of King Arthur, the movie Indiana Jones, or the novel The Da Vinci Code. But few people realize that behind all these dramatic tales lies a legend that has lasted for thousands of years. According to Christian tradition, the Holy Grail is believed to be the cup that Jesus used during the Last Supper, his final meal with his disciples. It was also said to be the very chalice that caught the first drops of Jesus' blood as he was crucified. From then on, the Holy Grail became a symbol of divine power. Whoever possessed it was believed to gain eternal life, boundless health, and everlasting youth. But the journey of the Grail didn't end there. In the 12th and 13th centuries, writers like Chrétien de Troyes and Robert de Boron breathed new life into the legend. In their stories, the Holy Grail became the ultimate treasure, sought after by the knights of King Arthur's legend. These knights not only had to overcome harsh trials, but also had to prove themselves worthy, pure of heart, to find the Grail. Robert de Boron even introduced a new character to the story, Joseph of Arimathea. He was believed to be the first guardian of the Grail and brought it to Glastonbury. From there, the Holy Grail became more than just a sacred object. It became entwined with the historical mysteries of Europe. So, what exactly is the Holy Grail? Some believe it is truly a cup with the power to heal and to bless. The poet Wolfram von Eschenbach wrote that the Grail was actually a stone from beyond the stars, called Exilis. This stone was said to have the ability to cure illness and enlighten the human soul. The mystery only deepened with the arrival of the Knights Templar. Legend has it that after the Crusades, it was these knights who became the secret protectors of the Holy Grail. However, they were eventually hunted down and destroyed by King Philip IV of France, possibly because of their connection to the Grail's secret. To this day, the Holy Grail remains one of the greatest mysteries in the history of Western religion. Is it a cup, a stone, or a secret bloodline? No one really knows. And perhaps it is this very uncertainty that has made the Holy Grail such a captivating symbol through the ages. Number 4, the Veil of Veronica. Among the most famous and most controversial relics of Christianity, perhaps nothing is as mysterious and moving as the Veil of Veronica. The story begins in the final days of Jesus on earth, as he was forced to carry the cross on the road to Golgotha. According to legend, amid the crowded street and in different faces, a woman named Veronica bravely stepped out from the crowd. She quietly offered her veil to wipe the sweat and dust from Jesus' face. Miraculously, when she pulled the cloth back, the image of his face was imprinted on the fabric. However, if you open the Bible in search of this story, you won't find it in any of the Gospels. The legend of Veronica and her veil only appears in apocryphal writings and was passed down orally starting around the 7th century. For many, then, this story is both a symbol of compassion and an unsolved mystery. The veil's mystique is only heightened by the relics that remain today. There are several holy veils preserved in different churches. The most famous version is said to be kept in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, while another is venerated in the town of Manipello, Italy, where it is called the Holy Face. What is remarkable is the fabric of these veils. There are no signs of paint or dye, yet the face on the cloth is so clear that modern scientists still cannot explain how the image could have appeared. There's more. Theories from some scholars suggest that Veronica's veil may be connected to an even older relic. According to legend, King Abgar of Edessa once received a cloth bearing the image of Jesus and believed it healed him of illness. Is the Mandylion the same as the Veil of Veronica? Or are these simply overlapping legends that merged over time? One thing is certain. Whatever its true origin, the Veil of Veronica has become a symbol of compassion and miraculous healing. For centuries, pilgrims have journeyed to see or touch the Holy Veil, believing that just a glimpse or a touch can bring protection and blessings. Yet, the origins and authenticity of each version of the Holy Veil remain a topic of endless debate. Number 3, nails of the cross. Perhaps no symbol is more powerfully connected to the passion of Jesus than the nails driven through him on the cross. But do the actual nails used in that historic crucifixion still exist today? In recent years, 2 ancient Roman nails were discovered in Israel, sparking a wave of curiosity around the world. What made the story even more intriguing was that both nails were believed to be directly linked to the tomb of Caiaphas, the Jewish high priest who handed Jesus over to the Roman authorities. Some chemical analyses showed that the soil and residue on the nails matched the geological layers found in the tomb of Caiaphas. However, Israeli archaeologists rejected this conclusion, arguing that there was not enough evidence to prove the nails truly came from that tomb. The truth is, all over the world, dozens of churches and chapels display nails claimed to be the real nails that pierced the hands and feet of Jesus. So, which ones are authentic? Is there a single nail that truly lay on Golgotha more than 2,000 years ago? The story became even more compelling when Dr. Aryeh Shimron, an Israeli geologist, conducted detailed research on these 2 nails and published his findings in the documentary, The Nails of the Cross. He presented evidence from physical, chemical, and biological perspectives, but in the end, nothing could be confirmed for certain. The tradition of searching for the holy nails actually began very early, starting with Saint Helena. She was the first to organize pilgrimages to the Holy Land, and she claimed to have discovered both the true cross and the nails of Jesus. Hundreds of years have passed since then, and countless nails have been revered as sacred relics, but no one knows which are real and which are not. And like so many other mysteries, the question, which nail is real, seems only to make their allure even stronger. Number 2, Spear of Destiny, the Holy Lance. Among the Vatican's collection of mysterious relics, there is one weapon that has haunted both kings and dictators for thousands of years. That is the Spear of Destiny, also known as the Holy Lance, the spear believed to have pierced the side of Jesus as he hung on the cross. Legend has it that, in the final moments on the cross, a Roman soldier named Longinus used the spear to pierce Jesus' side, making sure that he had truly died. From that moment, the spear became more than just a weapon. It turned into a symbol of power and even of the ability to control the fate of entire empires. The legendary power of the Spear of Destiny did not end with the stories in the Bible. Over the centuries, this spear has been linked to some of the most powerful figures in European history. Constantine the Great, the first emperor to make Christianity the official religion of Rome, was said to have possessed the spear and to have won his battles thanks to its miraculous power. In the Middle Ages, Charles IV, the Holy Roman Emperor, considered the spear a royal treasure and kept it in his castle. Later on, the spear passed through the hands of Napoleon Bonaparte, who reportedly longed to possess it to strengthen his rule. In the 20th century, the legend of the Spear of Destiny became an obsession for Adolf Hitler. It is said that Hitler believed whoever owned the spear would control the destiny of the world. When World War II ended, American soldiers found a spear hidden in an underground vault beneath the city of Nuremberg. Today, a spear is kept at the Hofburg Museum in Vienna, Austria. Experts have determined that this artifact was made in the 3rd or 4th century AD, hundreds of years after the crucifixion took place. Yet no one can say for sure whether this is truly the original Spear of Destiny or just a replica created to serve the ambitions of kings and dictators throughout history. Whether real or not, the Spear of Destiny still holds the allure of being one of the world's most mysterious and powerful relics, a sacred object that many believe could change the fate not just of one person, but of all humanity. Number 1. The Holy Belt of the Virgin Mary. According to ancient legend, at the time of the Virgin Mary's death, all of the apostles were brought by angels to her bedside, except for St. Thomas, the famously doubtful apostle who was often late. By the time Thomas finally arrived, Mary had already left this world. He pleaded for a sign to strengthen his faith. In answer to his prayer, the Virgin Mary appeared and placed her belt directly into his hands as proof of her passing. From that moment, the small belt became a symbol of the connection between earth and heaven, a faith that never fades. But the story of the Holy Belt did not end there. In the 12th century, an Italian merchant on pilgrimage to the Holy Land married the daughter of the person entrusted with keeping the sacred relic. After their wedding, he brought the belt back to his homeland, and from then on, the Holy Belt began a new journey in Italy. At one point, the belt nearly fell into the hands of thieves, but every attempt to steal it failed. Thanks to this, the Holy Belt has been preserved and cherished for centuries. Today, the Holy Belt is kept in the Cathedral of Prato, a magnificent church in the region of Tuscany. Each year, the relic is only displayed publicly 5 times, on major feast days, drawing thousands of worshippers and pilgrims from all over the world. These events are not just opportunities to admire one of the oldest surviving relics, but also moments for people to reflect on faith, on miracles, and on the wonders that history has managed to preserve until now. Whether you believe in miracles or not, the story of the Holy Belt of the Virgin Mary remains a testament to the power of tradition, of devotion, and above all, to the hope that people place in small but deeply meaningful objects. Thank you for staying with us until the end of today's video. Was there something that caught your interest or made you want to share your thoughts? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories. We'll see you in the next video.